Here we go. This is the drain plug, and it takes 3/8 ratchet head. I'm going the wrong way. Oh, I might have to try it without that. That ball doesn't work good on that. There it goes. This is hard to do left-handed because I'm still getting over my shoulder surgery. Now I got this, just a big open tub that I drained it in. That's the third oil catcher that I've tried, and every one of them just splashes it back on me. So I'm going to move back, try to do this without getting my camera oily. Now, I'll try to hold it up a little bit so if it splashes, it goes away from me. Okay, here we go. Oh, that was perfect. It didn't splash at all. That's a first. Uh-oh, in fact, I spoke too soon. Splashed a little bit out. Flowing good. It's this 6.7 diesel holds 3 gallons of oil, so that's something you gotta keep in mind. Alright, here we are at the right front tire now. Right there is the bottom of the oil filter, and I'll reach in there and I'll loosen it up with this. I'll loosen it up with that, and it's too tight to get my camera up in there so y'all can see, but I'll loosen it up with that, and then I'll drop it down to where I can see the top of it, and I screw this in the top of it, and it has to drop down to where you can see the top of it. This keeps the oil from spilling out of it because it comes out like this. You have to turn it sideways to pull it out. And then when the new one goes in, you pre-fill it with oil. You put this plug back in it to keep it from spilling, because it's got to go in like that, down, and then you got to take this out and then lift it back up and screw it into place after you've cleaned your mating surface. Alright, here we are. There's the old oil filter, and I've got it out. It's still got the plug in the end of it, so when I pull my oil pan back out, I'll dump that in it. That's plumb full of oil. Now, this hose, I'll take it while I'm under there. I'm putting the plug back in, and I'll stick this hose up on the fuel filter drain port, and that way when I go back up top and open that drain on the fuel filter, it'll drain out down into my pan. and it won't be hitting the axle and splashing all over the place. But that's kind of tricky. That hose is not the exact right size, but it's close as what I got. So it does work if you do it right. Now this plug, it's a little confusing because it says tighten to 50 Newton meters or 35 foot-pounds. Well, I set my torque wrench at 35 and I looked over at the Newton meters and it's not up even up to 43 Newton meters. So I don't know if my torque wrench is messed up or if their calculations are wrong. Which one's which? Which one do I tighten it to? I'm going with 35 foot-pounds. I'm up underneath now. And this, I forgot that this has a hose on it already. That's the hose that comes off the drain to the fuel filter, which is, let's see if I can get it on camera. It's right past that starter solenoid. Where am I at? Yeah, that's the top of it right there. It's just past that starter solenoid. So that gets a cartridge filter. It's an 1.1/8" socket, takes the lid off of it. But you have to drain the fuel out of it first, which takes a screwdriver. And that just is a 1/4 turn valve. And it comes out right there. So what I do is I put this hose over the end of it. Now I get it to stay there. How did I do that last time? I wedged it in somewhere last time to where it's stuck. And it's not like it's not got any pressure on it. It's just draining the fuel out of the fuel filter. There we go. So now I can open that 1/4 turn valve and drain that fuel filter, and that way I'll be able to change it. And I was going to put my plug in, but it's still dripping a little bit, so we'll let it drip while we're doing this. Down in here, there's that little yellow cap. That's the drain for the fuel filter. I've got a real long screwdriver that just happens to fit in there just right. If I can get it in there. Hit the hole, man. There we go. Now, let me zoom in. See, this is just like a 1/4 turn, so now it's open. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but that's draining down into my oil. And it ain't much. It may be a pint, half pint maybe. But that's emptying my fuel filter. And now I can take the lid off of it, which is, I don't know if you can see down in there. Yeah, that's it right there. It takes an 1.1/8" socket. I don't know what happened, but I've never had one that dirty before. I don't know if I got some bad fuel, or if that one was darker when it went in. I just don't remember. But I do know I've never had one that dirty before, so I'll keep an eye on my next change. This goes, what did I do with that lid? This goes on the rim of the lid, not the lid, but the canister that this sets in. Let's see if I can get past the sunlight here. I don't think I can. Let me turn the light on to see if it helps. I don't think it did. But anyway, right there is the canister, the fuel filter canister. So that O-ring comes off the lid of it. This new one goes on, and then you lube it up a little bit, and then you put the lid back on, and then make sure you close that yellow valve right there. If not, then when you start it up, you're going to be leaking fuel. I can take my hose off, and I got diesel on my, I don't know where that came from, the lid of the fuel filter. I'm still dripping just a hair, but I'm not going to sit here all day. I've been at this for probably a half hour. So. But now this is good and clean. And back in it goes. And I got my torque wrench set 35. Isn't a whole lot. There it goes. Now, I've never torqued this before. I always just tighten it down where I feel like it, but that right there is probably a little less than what I normally do. But I've never noticed it before, but it says right here on this gasket what it's supposed to be torqued to, so that's what I torqued it to. And all we got left now is the fuel water separator, and that's on the back end of the truck, so let's move back there. Pretty full, so before I do my fuel water separator, of course, like that. There it goes. All right. Right here is the fuel water separator, and right here is the drive shaft, so it's directly above the drive shaft on the rear, and I'm right up against the rear tire. So for this, it's kind of tricky. got a little thing on it you got to hold up to get it to come loose. And then when you start by loosening this, which is the drain, and it's got a little thing on it, and I'll stick my hose up on that and stick it down into my bucket so that I catch what comes out of it. If not, it's going to land right on this drive shaft and splash all over you. And then once you drained it out, this comes out, and this wire is part of this. So you screw this out, this goes back into your new fuel water separator. Then this screws off kind of like a oil filter. You clean it up, you put it back on, and there's an O-ring under here, which is the new one that came in the package. So you'll put a new O-ring on this once it comes out, and you screw it back in. You put this wire back up, and you're pretty much done. We've already done the front fuel filter. We haven't put the oil back in yet. We haven't put the new oil filter on yet. Got the old one out, but I haven't put the new one on yet. So let me set this aside. I don't want to get diesel fuel on my camera, so I'm going to set this aside and do this off camera. Alright, we're back after it now. I had to take a little break and go to church. There's the new filter that's on. I didn't record that because I can't get the camera up in there. But I put that cap back on it, filled it with oil, put the cap back on it, put it in there, then took the cap off and pushed it up where it needed to be. And I did clean the mating surface up in there and make sure it's good and clean. And put a coat of oil on the rubber gasket. So all that's left now is to fill. I've already done this twice. Turn that off. So what you want to do is turn the key off, turn it back on, and that fires up your fuel pump. And so that's filling your fuel filter reservoir up front, so that when you start it, it has fuel in it. Back in the old days, we used to have to fill the filter up with fuel before we put it on. These days you just cycle your key a few times, 5 or 6, 7 times. I've lost count now how many times I've done it, but each time you turn that key on, it activates the fuel pump and fills it up. And if you don't do this, then when you try to start it, it's just going to keep cranking because there's no fuel in the fuel filter for it to feed it. Okay, let's give it one more. And I got to push in the clutch on mine. Oh, almost. service. Parking brake engaged. I need a new anti-lock brake pump. Service and electronic braking. Oil change required. Okay, come on. Here we go. See, my oil pressure's back up to 51 now. So I let it run a couple minutes. Shut it off. I'll check the oil level, make sure everything's good, and be done. I have my winter tires on right now, and they don't have the TPS system in them, so that's why my light's flashing there, my tire pressure light. Just my regular stock summer tires. I put some mud claws on for winter driving. They don't have they're older rims, so they don't have the GPS. And my anti-lock brakes, I need a new anti-lock brake pump. I've already put one on it. Now they say I need another one, so there's another $500 down the drain. Anyway, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching.